All right, somebody want to grab that door, please? Thank you very much. Let's get to where we want to go. Dojo. Blow this up a little bit. Okay, cool. So let me go to, oh gosh, stacks, Python, lectures. Okay, so I want to create a new project, and this is going to be our login reg project. So let's activate our environment as usual. Environments. Oh geez, what's this called? Django. I just envisioned the song coming up when I said it. All right, because you guys were listening to it yesterday. Okay, so we got it activated. Let's create the project. So we'll say Django admin start project, and we'll call it login reg. Okay. Very good. Now we'll do a couple things inside there before we actually open up our code editor with it. So we want to create a directory called apps, and then we want to cd into that apps so that we can create our first app. And we'll say, what's the command? Python manage.py, and then we want to do start app, right? I'll just call it main. Can't open file manage.py. Whoops. I did it from the wrong place. So manage.py again is in the root of the project folder. So I need to actually go out to hit it. It's still not there. What? Oh, I'm not even inside of my my project yet. You guys didn't catch me there. Good grief. All right, let's try this again. So let's actually cd into login reg, right? Oh, and that doesn't even exist either. Didn't I just create that project?
Probably created somewhere else. Yeah.
Oh, because I'm inside apps right now. Jesus. All right, so let's remove with recursive force apps. Sorry about all this. And then let's actually go inside of it. So we'll go cd login reg. Okay, cool. Now let's excuse me, make a directory called apps. Okay, then we'll cd into it. And now let's do our manage.py stuff. So we'll go Python manage.py, and then we're going to do start app main. All right, well that went a little bit better. So let's cd out here, and I'm just going to code, which will open up in my VS Code, this. All right, let me get rid of this. All right, everyone good so far with what we're doing? Yeah. Okay, cool. So what we want to do, excuse me, terrible. We want to add this always to our settings.py, and I had the wrong file open there, but over here inside of our main, the name of the actual project is going to have a subfolder with that very same name. We'll have our settings.py, and we always want to add the app that we are working with. So ours is just called apps.main. Okay. And then we also need to do something with our URLs. So we need to tell our URLs to reference that specific app, right? So instead of just importing URL, let's also import this include function, which will allow us to include some other URLs file. Come down here. So I'm just going to strip out this admin. We're not going to use that right now. And then we'll say include, and we'll say apps.main.urls. Okay, so that's good. And then I'm going to grab this little bit right here, which we'll use in the other URLs file that we haven't yet created. Okay. So inside my apps, I've got my main app, but I don't yet have a URLs file for it. So let's create that. urls.py, and then we're just going to import URL in this case. And then we have to create this thing called URL patterns, this variable called URL patterns. And again, that's going to be a list. So each URL is going to be one specific route in our app. So let's say URL, and this one is just going to be the index route. So we'll put this little $sign here to tell the regex pattern this is the end of the pattern. So we don't want anything after, an empty route. All right, and where's that going to come from, guys? Views. Oops. We're going to say views, and we'll just call this the index route. Now, notice how we get the red squiggly. This is good. It's telling us undefined variable views. That means that we haven't even pulled it in yet. Okay, so we'll go import views. All right. No import, unable to import views.
It's from all import views.
From dot import views. All right. Syntax is well, I want to say a bad word here, but syntax can bite you, as you guys know very well, right? You start coding something and it's like, that doesn't work. Okay, so now it's telling us main.views has no index member. Okay, so we know we haven't yet even written a function to deal with this particular view. So let's go inside of our views file. And then we're already importing render, so that's good. So let's just create our def index. What does index need to take in? Request. Okay. And then we're just going to return render. And then we'll call it, we have to pass in the request every time. And then the template is just going to be, we're going to say main/index.html. Now, is this going to work yet? Because we haven't actually created the template yet, right? So let's do that now. Inside of our main folder, let's create a templates folder, and Django is going to be looking for that. And then inside that templates folder, we'll have another folder called main. Do you guys remember why we're doing this sort of convoluted way?
Because it grabs all of the apps together, and there's no way to tell if you have multiple index HTMLs, it won't know which is which. So
Correct. That's exactly it. It would grab the very first one, which might not be the one that you were expecting. All right. So we're just going to prepend these templates with the actual main folder in this case. All right. So I'll just drop in some boilerplate HTML here, and we'll just say this is working. All right. So that's pretty good. We've got this rendering that. Is there anything else that's missing so far? Should this work now? In theory? If all goes according to plan. Okay, yeah, I'm just asking for confirmation because sometimes I second guess myself. All right? Say that again? I did. Yes, indeed. All right. So let's clear this out, and we have to activate the environment again, which kind of sucks, but so be it. Environments Django. Okay. You know what? Before I oh, actually, never mind. So we'll activate the environment, and then before we even get back into the coding, what I want to do is actually add our bcrypt, because we don't yet have this in our Django environment. We did have something in our Flask environment. It was Flask_bcrypt. All right, but we want to add bcrypt itself. So let's say pip install bcrypt collecting bcrypt. Very nice, successfully installed. Okay, cool. So we're activated, which means that now that I'm inside here, I should be able to go Python manage .py. Actually, I'm gonna migrate this first so that we can actually use session. All right. Have any of you guys bumped into that error where you couldn't use session because you didn't migrate your database? Anyone? You have? All right, good. Kind of an obnoxious error, but what that means is that they're actually using the database to store some session information. So it has to be migrated before we can even use it. So again, Python manage.py. What's the command on this, guys? Make migrations. No changes detected. All right. Now say migrate. Okay, very good. Now let's run this guy. So we'll say python manage.py run server. Okay, so we're running at port 8000. We should be able to get something when we go there. Right, localhost 8000. Hey, all right, we're in business. All right, so basically we're going to create a couple different views here. We're going to have one page which has our login form and our registration form, and then we'll have another page which is sort of like a, I don't know, we'll call it like the home page of the app. So when a person gets there, we can welcome them by name, you know, hey, so-and-so, and we'll give them like a logout link or something like that so they can get out of the app as well. All right. So before we move on, let's just create this second page. We'll just call it homepage.html. Okay. Put some stuff in here. And then I'm just going to create a couple things. So that's our home page. And then we'll have a p tag. Hello, so and so. All right, so eventually we will replace that with an actual live name. And then let's just add that to our route so that we know that, that's going to be a working route. So our URL, let's just call it homepage. That's clever, right? Views.home, which we don't have yet. Notice it's telling us that. So there are always these clues along the way that you haven't done something. Yeah, good. It actually would be important if there were going to be other URLs that had homepage followed by some other stuff. But if we don't, then it's not really going to make any difference. All right. So back in our views.py, let's have a method that actually handles this. So we'll say def home, again, takes in the request. And this is just going to, for now, return render request. And we'll say main homepage.html. Okay, so we've got that. Let's see if that route works for us. So if we go homepage, excellent. Hello, so-and-so. Cool. So, so let's build out this login reg page a little bit. We need to make a couple forms. This will be the least fun part of this process. So in our index.html, let me just close that out. Okay, we'll have an h2 here. This is going to be our register. Okay, and then we'll have a form with some inputs inside there. All right, so how many inputs do we want? We want like first, last, email, password. Do we want to confirm password? Yeah, you want that. What is that, 5 or so? Okay, all right, so we got a form. Inside of that, we're going to have a div. Each one will have a label plus an input. And then we're going to do this 5 times plus a button. All right, that's not too bad. So our action, let's just pick a spot to send it to. So we'll just say / register. Okay, what's the method going to be? Post. Very good. And then what do I need to add inside this form?
CSRF.
Yeah, let's add our little CSRF token. Yeah, and I do too, but thankfully the error is quite
Clear.
helpful. Yeah, it's like, that's what I missed. All right, so let me just clean this up a little bit. If I go down here, I can push these out. I can fix this. I can come up here. This will be a little better. All right, cool. So my label for first name will be first name, the name of this. This part is so fun, I have to say. And you know, if you guys have working implementations of login or edge, copy and paste is your best friend. Right? Just be careful, you know, if something changed like an input, you know, that might require some tweaking. All right. So name equals last name, email. All right, cool. What else we got? We got password here.
You don't want to do input type now?
Well, the reason I'm not doing that is so that we can use our backend validation for that part. But yeah, like after you get the backend validation working, it would be okay to change that.
Okay, someone said you want both. Front end takes care of
Front
some
end and
stuff.
back end is ideal. Back end for sure.
Okay.
Okay, so do not only have front end, but if you were only going to have one, make sure it's the back end. Because think of your back end as like your last line of defense. So if somebody slips something past your back end, well, it's going to end up in your database. Okay.
With the HTML validation, that email validation is good enough for the client side validation, or do we also need to do that in the JavaScript?
It depends. If you want it to be more customized, you're going to need to do some JavaScripting. If you're okay with how it looks when you get the error with the HTML5 version, you can stick with that. Yeah. So you'd probably want a couple things on that. If we're doing just HTML5 validation, I would do type equals email, and then I'd also set it as required because we don't want them to obviously not pass in an email. All right, so password is going to be of type password. And what does that do, guys?
Makes it, I just can't see your typing.
Turns it into bullets. Yeah, exactly. So name equals password. And then this type should also be, whoops, password. This will just be the confirmation. Name equals pwconf. Pretty good. So we'll say confirm password. All right, and then our button should say submit. Cool. Let's just go back to the root route, index route. Okay, so we got our lovely looking form here. Oh goodness, don't tell me LastPass is trying to fill these in. Dang it. I thought I told LastPass to ignore localhost stuff, but apparently that didn't happen. All right, so that's our first form. That's going to be for our registration. And then we're going to have another form that will be for login. So rather than redo it, let's just do something like this. Anybody know what I just did? Want to know what I just did?
Yeah.
How did you do that? All right, so I just selected all the text that I was interested in, and then I held down my Alt key along with Shift, and then hit the down arrow key, and it duplicates it. All right, so quite handy when you're doing stuff like this. All right, we want our route to be login for this one, and then we don't need first, last. We just need the email, right? So I can dump those guys. And then we do need password, but we don't need confirm, so let's take that out. Okay? So we're pretty good. We should have two forms on our page. Oops. I wanted to just say that this is the login. So we'll say h2 login. Okay? All right, two forms. Cool. So what we're going to build first is going to be what we'll call a naive implementation of login or edge. Now, what do I mean by that? Basically, what I mean is that we won't have any validations to begin with, and then we'll come back and add them later. So initially, we'll just say, hey, anybody can register, and our login will still match their password for now, but we'll fix that up later. All right. So we need to create actual routes for these. Okay, let's save that. So the first one is going to be login. Use.login. Okay, and I'll just duplicate this guy. We'll change that to register. Okay, and then I think we're going to have one other URL too. Do you guys remember what that's going to be for? Logout. Yeah, our creation is going to be handled by the register route. Okay, so logout will be, we're just going to clear the session. So we'll say views.logout. Okay, so inside of our views, let's just go ahead and build that logout route, because that's going to be super easy. Def logout takes in a request. So what am I going to do here? If I want to clear the session, you guys know how to do that? Okay, so in Flask, we had to import session, and then we could call clear on it. With Django, though, excuse me, session is actually attached to request itself. So we would say something like request.session.clear, and then what am I going to do after that? Redirect. Watch, there's going to be a red squiggly, I think. So we're going to redirect to just the root route, or the index route should be fine. Whoa, did I put that there? Sorry. You didn't see that. That didn't just happen.
Billy Algo's back in.
Billy Algo's. Good eye, man. Wow. Nobody. It wouldn't have caused any errors, but yeah, we don't need semicolons in Python. So why am I getting this red squiggly here? It is not imported. Correct. So let's do that, right? All right, good to go. We have a couple other methods that we need to build in here. So I've got a register method. Okay. What is the register method going to do? Boom. All right. Do we have a user model currently? No, we haven't built that yet, so we may want to kind of go back to the drawing board and create it. So inside of our models here, we don't have anything yet. So let's say class user takes in or extends models.model. Okay. And what are the things we want? First name. And this will be a car field, right? I guess we'll say max length equals 60. Whatever. Let's just duplicate it a few more times. So we got last name, email, password. What else do we have? So yeah, this is an interesting thing. Do we need a confirmed password inside here? No. Why not?
We can just do a little bit of if logic to use it.
Okay, good. But why don't we need it inside of our model?
It's not going to be a table without
It won't be an actual column. Yeah, it's not like we would have a password column and then a confirmed password column, right? Okay, so so let's just change this. This will be whoops. Last name, email. I'm gonna add something to this. Unique equals true, so that would establish a constraint so that we don't have duplicate emails in our database. And then we're gonna have our password.
Would 60 characters be enough for password? Because we're going to hash it.
I believe it will be. Yeah. If it's not,
It gave me error when I had
Does it?
45.
when you had 35?
45.
45. Yeah. So clearly that wasn't enough. I think 60 is what bcrypt needs.
The module suggested 60.
I have a question, Lauren.
Mhm.
So if someone somehow like hacked into our
And could you say for unique equals true on the password, and then you could type something in the password field, and it would tell you if the password exists in the database?
Well, remember what bcrypt is going to do is it's going to salt the password as well. So even if somebody had the exact same password as the next person, it's not actually going to look the same in the database.
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
just thinking, isn't that like kind of a weird way, right? Like unique equals true for email, so that way you know someone else in that database has that email.
Well, what this is going to do is it's going to prevent us from adding duplicate emails in the registration, but it's not going to do anything on a login.
How will it
Okay.
prevent it? Will it give an error? Will it just not do
It
anything?
should throw an error. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. That like, would if the error said
Yeah.
this like create a unique username, then it would tell us like, oh, well, someone else already has this email in here, and maybe it would give you a clue as to how to sneak in.
Oh, and then you might try to log in as that person. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're always going to get that, aren't you?
I think that's why you do the generic. Just check your email and password, so they don't know.
Well, but on a registration, we're talking about registration here. Okay,
Oh,
so like
yeah.
let's say I come in and I try to register, but I'm already registered. Well, I mean
You do want to know
Yeah,
that.
it's nice to give vague errors, but
Yeah.
it'd be kind of ridiculous if you're just like, hey, check your name and password.
Yeah.
But it's like I'm just trying to register, you know? Like, what do you mean check my name, email, and password or whatever? Yeah, so so on that one, you're gonna have to be kind of descriptive on the error. Like, yeah, you already have an account, please log in.
And that's
But I mean, who's gonna try to hit the registration screen to do that? Maybe somebody would.
I don't know.
Sometimes the registration screen looks very similar to the login screen because
Yeah.
people don't provide that much information.
Right. All right.
Users are stupid.
Well, all right. So let's keep going. We're gonna have this created at, of course, which is our models dot date time field. Okay, and then we'll do auto now. We'll set that equal to true, but then we'll change it in a second. And then I'm just gonna duplicate this down for updated at. Okay, and then so we'll change this to be auto now add equals true. What does that mean?
On creation, but not on.
Yes, but otherwise, if we're just updating, we don't want to actually change the created at. Correct. All right, good. So now that I've actually created a user model, what are we going to need to do?
Import it into use.
Yeah, but before we can even use it, what has to happen? We've got to migrate it. That's correct. Good job.
Fly south.
Fly south. Whoa, why am I getting an error over here? Did anyone see this error here? Log
I think it's
out.
on the return statement after the redirect under use.
Oh yeah, because I didn't put anything in there. All right. There we go. Has no attribute. Oh, and then we didn't create the login either. So let's just create some placeholders here. So we'll say def login takes in a request, and then for now just pass, right? Because we need to migrate these this user model so that we can actually use it. So let's get out of that. Let's go Python manage.py make migrations. Cool. And then Python manage.py migrate. Okay, excellent. So our migration went as expected. Now let's run our server again. Yes.
So we haven't connected like a micro database, right? Where is this model?
SQLite. So notice how here in the root of my project I've got this db.sqlite3 file. Yeah, so and if I wanted to see what was inside of that, inside my little DB browser for SQLite, I can open up this specific thing. So let's see, inside Python lectures, this was login reg. Let's open that guy up. There it is. Okay. So then our database structure, the one that we just created is going to be main underscore user, because the first part is just the name of the app. Second part is the actual name of the table. So in here we've got our first name, last name, email, and you could see if we were to browse this table, we don't have any users in here yet. All right. Okay, cool. So we did our migration. Let me close this out here. Now what do we need to do to actually be able to use user? Import it, right? Good. So from .models import user. Okay. And then so when we're registering, let's just do something real simple. We'll just print out, for now, we'll just print out the form data and redirect right back. So we'll make sure that that part's working. So let's go print request.post. Okay, and then we're going to return a redirect back to the index route. Let's open up our server so that we can actually see it. And actually maybe, can I put multiple things in print? Do you guys know? You can? Cool. All right, so let's do some line breaks here just to kind of make it clear what's happening. All right, and then we'll go back to our form real quick and we'll insert some stuff. So let's put myself in here, mit.com, blah. Okay, see what happened? Cool, so we're actually getting our form data, and this is super important. If you guys are ever wondering if you're hitting a specific route, print is your best friend. It'll be the same thing when you get to the mean stack. Console.log is going to come in quite in handy. All right. Okay, so what we want to do, or what I want to do, is I want to set this request.post. I want to set a variable equal to it. Why do you think I want to do that?
Less to type.
Yes. Yeah, because I'm lazy. Right? So I just want to say form equals request.post. Okay? And then the next thing that we want to do is we actually want to create a new user. So again, this is not a naive implementation. We're just assuming everything they're entering in is okay. Okay, so let's just say user.objects.create. Okay? And then I want to say first name equals form first name. Not form. Okay, last name equals form last name. All right, what else we got? Email equals form email, and then finally password equals format password. Okay. Do I need to do created at and updated at? No. Fortunately for us, it's done for us, so we're good in that regard. So a couple things. We're creating a new user. What do you think we're going to do after we create that new user? Like, what do we do in Flask once we create a new user?
Add the ID, the row number, add ID into the session.
Yes. Why do we want to do that? So yeah, so that then when we get to the home page, we can actually pull that correct user and then populate some data in there. And also on the home page, we can verify that they're actually logged in. So let's create some quick logic in the home page to bounce somebody out if they're not logged in. Okay. Yeah, so let's do this. So if user ID not in request.session, let's return a redirect. And we'll just go to the index route. Okay, and then we can even print something in here just to sort of say someone was unauthorized. I guess I didn't spell that right. Okay, I got my squigglies. Cool. Someone was unauthorized, so if there's no user ID in session, let's kick them out. And let's try to go there. We don't have anything in our session now, so we should get kicked out, right? All right, good. And we got our message down here. Someone was unauthorized. Cool. So that's working as expected. All right, now inside of our register, how are we going to get the user ID from this user.objects.create call? It's going to return actually, so in contrast to Flask, where we get back just an ID, in this case we're going to get back a complete user object. Okay, so that complete object will also have its ID as well. So we'll say, let's set this. We'll say user equals this user that we just created. And then underneath this, let me go to the end of this. We'll just say request.session. And what is session, guys? What kind of data structure is it?
Object.
It's a dictionary. Yes, so in JavaScript, object. Good. All right, so we're just going to say user ID equals user.id. Okay, and then we will redirect back to the index. Actually, we don't want to redirect to the index route. Where do we want to redirect to now?
Login.
Home page. It's up to you. Yeah, you could if you wanted to just access it directly from the session, or if we want to, the other way is that when we hit the home page. So if we've gotten this far, we know that we have a user in session, right? So how do we get that user? Okay. Yeah. So let's do a little get. So we'll say user.objects.get, and we'll get by ID. So we'll say ID equals quest.session user ID. And then now that we have this, what do we want to do with it? We just pulled the user. How do I allow my template to make use of it? Context, yeah. So maybe we'll say something like, we'll create this little context dictionary, and then we'll say name is going to be user.name, or first name, because these are split up. And then let's just add a little space in there, and then user.last name. Okay, so now that we have that in there, we should actually be able to add this to the home page. So if this ever gets rendered, we should know that person's name because they are in session, they are logged in, right? So instead of hello so-and-so, let's put their actual name. All right. Anything else we need to do to get this part working? Oops. So in our register, again, we created a user, and then assuming that did not error, and we could like add some try catches to it later or something if we want, but assuming that didn't error, we're adding that new user ID to the session, and then we're just redirecting the home page. Anything else we have to do there? Say that again? Should be pretty good, right? Should be in good shape. Let's try it. All right. Okay, passwords. Okay. So that part is working. We do want to create a little logout link on there so that we can get rid of clear our session, right? So on our home page, let's just create a link up here, ahref, and that's going to be /logout. All right, log out. Let's do that. Make sure that's working. So if I click this and I try to go back to that home page, I should still not get in, right? So I successfully cleared my session. So that's all good. Now, what's the other thing we need to build? Login, right? Okay. So inside of
So I have a question about
Yeah.
for the user ID, did you save all this to the database and then you get user ID from the database?
Yeah. So in fact, let's look at it here inside our SQLite here. If I refresh this, now I've got my user in there, right?
So I also zoned out when you typed it.
We'll zone back in,
I'm
man.
trying.
All right, no, that's okay. I know this is kind of long and there's a lot of stuff going on, but just hang in there. All right, so in the login part,
where your password isn't patched.
correct. We haven't even done that yet. So again, our naive implementation is going to be like basically no validation, no password hashing, and then we'll come back and add those two things. All right, good. All right, so in our login, we're just taking in again. So I'm just going to set this request.post. All right, now what do I want to do? I want to actually find the user that has this email address. So if there is one, then we're good, right? How do I do that? There are two possibilities here. I can either do a get, so we have to be careful with get, because if we get and that email does not exist in our database, it's going to actually throw an error. So if we're going to use the get method, we need to do like a try catch type block or try accept. Do we want to do that, or do we want to use filter? What do you guys prefer? I don't really care. Which one? Filter.
What would be used
What?
in production?
Um,
If I'm running Facebook, what am I using?
I don't know what they're using.
I feel like the shortage of using filter is that if you actually have more than one
More
user,
than one.
you would never know.
Yeah, I was gonna say probably get is the more idiomatic sort of way of doing it. So let's just do it that way then, because I'm okay with that. So let's just say try, and then we're gonna have a try block. We'll say user equals user.objects.get, and we'll say email equals form email. Okay. And then there would be this exception block, which means that we actually didn't have that in our database. So what are we going to do if we hit an exception? Well, at the very least, we're gonna send them back to the login reg page, right? Okay. So let's just do that for now. Return a redirect back to that, and then otherwise, so if we didn't hit that exception, we'd keep going and we'll check their password, right? Okay. So if, let's say form at password equals user.password, then what do we want to do?
Redirect them or not? Yeah. Redirect
Before
them
we
or not.
redirect them, though, what do we have to do?
Put the ID in session.
Yeah, put the ID in session. Very good. All right, so let's say request.session user ID equals user.id. Okay, and then we would go return redirect to the home page. Okay. Let's check one other thing here. So if we've gotten this far, so in other words, if the password did not match, what do we want to do? Still redirecting. Yeah, every time. All right. Does anybody have any issues with this? Apparently, this is a syntax issue. What's wrong with that? Yeah. Yeah. Whoa. Very good. All right. It was kind of funny with it. The error was like no suggestions available or something. Did you see that? Let me make this come back. Invalid syntax. No quick fixes available. Be careful. That's very helpful.
We have no idea.
All right. Yeah, that was kind of shocking. All right, so here we've got the logic. Is everyone following along with what's going on here? So let's just take a quick look at this. So we're trying to find a user with that email. If we hit an exception, in other words, that user is not in our database, let's just redirect them out. And then if we get this far, that means that we can actually check their password against the one that's stored in the database. So if these two things are equal, we just want to set it to in the session, and then we want to redirect them to the home page. Finally, if they weren't equal, then let's bounce them out again. It's going to be like one of those vague errors, right? Check your email and password kind of thing. All right, good. So we're all set here. Let's try to log me in. So I'll enter a, let's see. Let's just enter some other email address that we know does not exist. Okay, we didn't get inside, so that's cool. Maybe we should have an error printing for this. Okay, so if we get inside the exception, let's just print user does not exist. Okay, and then if we get down here, let's say print user entered the wrong password. Why am I doing this?
So you can see what.
It's just like for my own testing, and you don't have to do this if this doesn't work with your workflow, but it's just sort of like, okay, well, let's make sure that we're hitting our code blocks exactly as we expect to.
It's
All
not
right.
confusing, just redirect to the
Exactly, because here it's like, man, I just keep getting redirected. I don't know why, though. All right, so let's put in mmm@ttt.com. We'll see what happened here. User does not exist, so we're good. We hit that exception like we expected. Now let's do a wrong password. So m@t.com. Bunk, we'll call it. Okay, let's see what it says there. User entered the wrong password. So everything's working as expected. Let's enter in the correct password here. t.com. All right. So far everything is working as expected. We have login and reg. The only things that we don't have is we haven't done any validation yet, right? So we do need to do that. Let's start to get into that part. All right. Let me shut down the terminal here. I'm just going to close some files. Okay, so where do we want to add our validations? Has anyone got to this yet? Are you actually there?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, so we have this thing inside models that we've been using this whole time. It's each one of our class names. So for instance, we've got user.objects, and you guys may have been wondering, what's the deal with this objects thing? You know, we're using it obviously when we do .create and so forth. But it actually has some functionality built into it that we can use for our advantage. Okay, so we can create what's called a user manager, which extends models.manager. Okay, and what this class is going to enable us to do is it's going to enable us to create some basic validation for our user class. All right. So inside this class, we're going to have a method called basic, well, if I can spell validator. Okay. And what do you think that validator is going to take in? If you had to guess. I know you know. You can actually just tell me.
Do you need a def?
I did it last night.
Yes, I do. Very good. All right. Yeah, what's this taking in?
Self.
No. We want to take in some post data, which is actually going to be the data that comes from the form so that we can validate it. Okay? All right, so let's call it post data. Does that sound good? All right, so inside the validator, what we're going to do is we're going to create an errors dictionary, which will be empty to begin with, and then we're going to go through each piece in this thing and make sure that it's valid. If it's not, then we'll add a key to the errors object. Okay, so we'll say errors equals an empty dictionary. Let's run some different checks, and then at the end, we're just going to return errors. Okay, so let's first check first name. So if the len of first name is less than 1. So in other words, they did not enter a first name. We'll just set an error. Errors at first name equals please enter your first name. Okay? And I'm going to duplicate this here for last name. Change that guy. Please enter your last name. Okay, cool. What do we want to do for email?
The pattern.
Yeah, so we'll do a couple things. Maybe we'll do first, if it, well, let's just do the pattern first, right? And I cannot for the life of me remember where we need to import this from, so I'm just going to check an older implementation. So it comes from Django.core.validators. We can import this thing called validate email. And then the way that works is we're just going to pass in the actual email.
So we don't have to write it up.
Nope.
Italian, great.
You guys are like,
So annoying.
I've seen the light. Not so bad, right? Okay, so let's get back into where we were. So we'll import this guy. So this should return us a boolean, true or false. So let's say if validate, if not validate email against, whoa, we were supposed to be using post data here. Sorry about that. Post data, surround these guys, post data, oh man, tedious, all right, and then here, actually that was supposed to be, did I duplicate this when I didn't want to? Let me get rid of this. All right, so let's do email. If not, validate email, and we're coming in post data, and that's going to be the email. Then we want to set an error at email. Please enter a valid email. Maybe I want to stringify that. Okay. What else do we need to do? We got password and validate password, right? Or
Is this
confirm.
going to cover when user doesn't enter email at all?
Let's find out. I think it should, but we'll check. If it doesn't, then we can obviously add an extra check in there. Okay, cool. So let's make sure that password has a length, and then what else do we want to check? Yeah, make sure that the password confirm matches what the password says. So password is less than 1. Then we'll go errors at password equals please, whoops, Jesus, keys. Please enter a password. And this time I'm getting mad, so I'm putting an exclamation point. All right. And then the other thing is that if post data at password does not match, so not equal to post data at password confirm, what did I call that? pwconf. Then let's set an error. Confirmation equals please enter a, whoops, your passwords didn't match. Okay.
But what if I enter the password, but I don't enter anything in password confirm? Would that throw an error? 'Cause
No,
my
it's
data doesn't have any information.
well, it's going to have an empty string because again, that input still exists in our front end form, so it's just going to come back to the back end with an empty string. So it'd be okay. Yeah. So in one case, we're catching them hey, you didn't enter a password period. In the second case, we're saying, but your password did not enter or did not equal the confirmation one. Okay.
Question. If the
Yeah.
post validation fails, it's gonna throw an error to the front, obviously. Is it gonna persist the data in the fields or not?
Not as we're going to write it here, but you certainly could. What we're going to do though in this case is we're going to redirect them, and we're going to basically set these errors to the messages.
Okay.
So it'll say on the front end, like all the different things that went wrong.
But it's not gonna maintain the
No, but you could totally do that. Yeah. All right. So again, what we've done with this. Whoa, what are we getting here? Oh, it should have self. Yeah, my bad. All right. So what we've done is we've created this errors dictionary, and we're just returning it back out after the end, right? Now, what else do I need to do to make this usable?
In your index, you need a place to print the errors.
What else?
So you need to put that in your user model.
Yeah, so I need to say objects is going to equal this user manager that I just created. So essentially, we're overwriting the objects with a new instance of the manager class that we created here. Okay? Any questions about that? It might not make any sense to you at this point, and that's probably okay. But essentially, we have to do this in order to be able to actually use our validator method. Okay.
It still works. Like I'm not sure I quite understand. It still works as its old self, like the manager, because it's inheriting all of the functionality from that manager class.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. So again, we're inheriting from models.manager.
So it's still that. It just has extra functionality.
Mm-hmm. We just created this extra method here that we can call on. All right. So inside of our oops, not the models.py, we actually want to go back inside of our views.py and change some stuff here, right? So if we're registering, what we want to do before we even create the user is let's run the error checking against it, right? So we've got all this form data coming from request.post, and let's say errors equals user.objects basic validator. Okay. And then our basic validator is going to take in what? So it's telling us right here, this is kind of helpful, should be taking in the post data itself. Okay, so I can just simply give it that form. Now, how do I know if something went wrong? Any guesses? Yeah, exactly. When all else fails, print out. What's going on here? But basically, I can check to see if there are any keys in my errors that I returned. If there are, that means that we do have errors. Okay? So let's say if len of errors is greater than 0, that means I have some errors. And then what I want to do is I want to actually iterate through those messages, or I want to save them so that the front end is going to have something to access and display the user. All right. So for now, let's just say we'll print the errors, and then I'm going to return redirect to that. All right. All right, so let's test this out, and let's have our terminal open so that we can actually see if we hit any errors here. So if I log out and I try to register with, say, like some bad data, whoa, where's that coming from?
Oh, do we still need to
So
make the
empty
index?
string won't work on that validated email. because it pops up.
Oh, yeah, it's actually, we need a try catch block on this. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's go back back here. So when we do the validate email, that has to be inside of a try except block, because what's going to happen is it won't validate if it's blank, okay? And that's fine, because that tells us there's an error. But rather than just the if not thing, what we need to do is, let's say, try, and then inside that block we'll validate that, okay? And then our except block would set the error, okay? So if it creates an exception, let's do that. All right, and let's go back here, enter that as is, and let's see what we got in our errors here. Okay, so notice we now have this little dictionary in here. First name, last name, email, please enter a valid email. So it did catch a blank email, so that's good. And then please enter a password. We didn't get the password confirmed thing because they didn't even enter a password to begin with. All right, so does this make sense to everybody? Everyone pretty good with this? Okay. All right, so the other thing that I said we need to do is we actually need to save these errors so that we can send them to the front end, right? And again, we need to do messages. I'm going to glance here at this because I keep forgetting how this goes. But basically what we're going to do, is this. We've got this messages that we need to import. So let me bring this. And essentially to set each error message, we could say messages.error, and we have to pass it in the request. And then we'll say what the actual error was, and then the other thing that we can add is some additional tag, if we want. I probably won't do that in this case. We'll pass in the request and the actual message, all right? So let's go back to login reg here. So we want to import this guy. I'm not doing that in the right file, am I? Whoa. Sorry about that. We want to do this inside views.py. All right. So let's come up here. Okay. So, and you guys can read about this on the platform too. There are different types of messages that you can apply. You can have error messages. You can have like debugging messages, warnings. I think maybe another category. But so what we're going to do if there are these errors is we're going to iterate through those errors. Do you guys remember how to iterate through a dictionary? Yes. Key. Or we'll say key val in, and then it's going to be errors dot items, right? So the items method will actually give us a list of all the errors. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to say messages dot error, and then I want to pass in the request every single time, and then I also want to say what the message is. Well, the message is just going to be the val. Make sense? Okay, so I'm going to pass in the actual val, and then we'll redirect. Now in our actual view, it doesn't like that because I didn't use key. I wonder if I were to underscore it, would I have a problem with that? No matter. Okay, so inside of our view, let's just iterate through messages if there are any, and then we can show those to the user. All right, so up here and here, let's go for message in messages. So messages will be available in your templates. Make sure that you don't call something in your context object messages, because then you are essentially overriding that. I don't know if that would throw an error, but it's probably not what you want to do.
Do you need to check if you have messages at all?
I shouldn't, because if there are no messages, we'd have nothing to loop to them, right? It would be like an empty list.
Oh, okay.
Make sense? All right, so let's just print out the message. You guys would probably make me do some kind of a class on that, so I know how you are. All right, we'll just say color is red. Okay, fair enough. Drag this guy to the other side. Whoa. Drag. Oh, I can't get it to the end.
How do you do that?
I just highlighted it and then I did like a double tap and drag. Or for you guys it might be click and drag. I have double tap and drag on mine, which I'm quite fond of, but anyway. So that's that. So we got some messages that should be appearing here. Let's try it out. All right. It looks quite lovely, right? Cool. Please enter a valid email. So what else can we do? So we've got validation on the registration. The other thing, we may want to have some validation on the login, right? So I mean, we already have validation, but we haven't actually pushed any errors to the front end. So let's do inside of our views. When we try to log in and something goes wrong, instead of doing this print, let's say messages.error request, and then we'll say please check, or no please, let's stop being polite, check your email password. There we go. All right.
You already got him.
Yeah. How dare you enter wrong information. So we'll do the exact same thing down here, because down here, if we've gotten this far, that means the password didn't match. All right. So let's come in here and try to log in, check your email and password. So we're all good with that, right? Everything's fine and dandy. The only other thing that we haven't done yet is just the encryption part. So let's just go back and add that, and we should be good to go, right? All right. So inside of our views.py, what do we need to import? Decrypt. All right. And what else do we need to do? Okay. So we only have a couple things we need to do. So if everything is validated, let's just hash the password. And instead of putting in the one from the form, let's put that in. And then when we log in, let's match it against the hashed password. Okay? All right. So in register, the password that we're going to enter, so if we've gotten this far, everything validated. So instead of format password, we want to hash it. And on the platform here, it'll show you, whoa, I'm in the wrong thing. Hang on one second. It'll show you how to actually do this, this hashing. I believe it's just hash PW. Is that what you recall? No? PW hash? Is that right?
I haven't done it since class. I just come on the validations.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, I keep forgetting the syntax of this, but basically if we go down to, I think it was in full stack, right? Bcrypt. Okay, cool. So in Bcrypt, we've already installed it, so we're good there. We're just going to do hash PW. All right, so I can literally grab this guy right here and drop this in. So instead of just the password as it was, I'm going to go gensalt in here, and I'm just going to copy this and dump this inside encode. Okay, so the difference here is that you actually, whoops, yeah, I put that in the wrong place. This is supposed to be in front of encode. Okay, so we need to encode the password, and then it's going to generate a salt for us right here. What happened?
Oh yeah.
Oh, hey, that's that thing from the platform. Remember we talked about?
What is that?
You got to be careful. Sometimes if you copy something from the platform, it'll actually bring in this little copy right here. Yeah. So it's kind of tricky. All right. Let's save that. And let's go try to register a new user. Yeah, we did, didn't we? We imported Bcrypt, yeah. Question? No? Okay. All right, so let's create a second user. Who wants to be my second user? There we go. All right. All it takes is one. All right, Justin@lou.com. Your password is password. Okay, so hello, Justin Lou. Let's check our database here. Check it out. Justin's password is nice and hashed, right? It's a big jumble here. Okay, so the only other thing that we need to do is make a slight change to our login to match against that hashed password, right? And then again, inside the platform, they're going to tell you how to do this. Validating just means we're going to do check PW, and then again, we need to encode, and then we need to run it against the thing that we got back from the database.
What does the encode do? Like, we never did that in class.
Let's look it up. String encode Python. Encode. It returns an encoded version of the original string. Okay, so I guess we could theoretically we could encode it with different type of encoding other than UTF-8. And I believe it would set it as UTF-8 by default. It says right here. So it doesn't require any parameters. So here's an example. String is string. Oh, jeez. So when you encode it, it ends up looking like this. UTF. Yeah, I'll look into that a little bit more because I had a feeling you were going to ask that question. I don't know. All right, but we just have to do it for now. That will enable us to actually properly match the passwords. So I'll grab it and watch out for that copy thing because I'm sure it'll come up again. All right, so down here when we're logging in, so we're going to do if bcrypt check password, and then we're going to pass in what? We're going to encode the request.post password. Shouldn't it just be form password at this point? Okay, so yeah, for us it's just form password dot encode, and then the user will be user.password because I think that's what we called it in our database, right? So if that's good, let me just take out all this stuff. So if that's good, then we have a proper user and we can log them in, right? Everything look good on this? Oh, bcrypt is an unknown word. All right then. No big deal there. All right, so let's go back here. Let's log out. And let's try to log in Justin again at lou.com. Password. Okay, that works. Let's try logging him in with a bad password. Whoops. At lou. Jesus. Okay. Bunk. All right. Any questions? That's login and reg. I hope you guys didn't fall asleep. I had to fight myself from falling asleep.
For the exam,
Yeah.
we could do this in either Flask or.
Yeah, you can actually take the test in Flask. However, I would say please try to do it in Django as much as you can. If you're like super far behind, it's an option. But if you guys are almost there and you're starting to understand Django pretty well, do it. Do it in Django. Yes.
In a video about this subject, Michael Joy said there is no shame in doing it in class.
No, there's no
As a
shame.
direct
It's not a shame thing. Yeah.
So if you want to do it in class, it's cool.
It's not a shame thing at all. It's more so like if you can push yourself to work in a different framework, you know, give it a whirl.
I'm going to try Django, and that's why I'll be
Yeah.
fine Monday afternoon.
If Django is just giving you a really tough time and Flask is like an old friend or whatever, Then there you go. Your decision's made for you.
Old reliable.
Yeah, like Old Faithful, right?
An old